Hello, my name is Voya and welcome to My Deep Guide, and in today's video we are comparing the Note Air 3 with the Note Air 3C. So they are, for all intents and purposes, identical devices, with Note Air 3C actually being color and having the BSR technology, or are they? And here we obviously have the Note Air 3, the regular one, the monochromatic one on the left, and the Note Air 3C, the color version, on the right hand side. It's really helpful that they have different kind of color schemes here, because otherwise you would be hard pressed to find a difference between them design wise. So we start with the design comparison, and for all intents and purposes this is the exact same device and it's the same exact housing between them. There's no difference whatsoever. However you take a look at them from any which side, they are exactly the same, and not just alike, but exactly the same. So everything is the same. The only difference that you may be able to see, even the color is super similar. I mean, it's very different to notice if there's any difference in coloration. The only thing is that it seems to me that on the front, Note Air 3 is tiny bit darker than the Note Air 3C. But I guess that depends also on the light. For all intents and purposes, exactly the same design. And that's a good thing, because for me at least, I love the design and the ergonomics and the way it looks, the way it feels of the Note Air line. It hasn't changed throughout Note Air 1, Note Air 2, Note Air 2 Plus, and it stays the same with the Note Air 3 and the Note Air 3C, which is a testament to just how good the Note Air design was to begin with, and it's a nice thing to see that it hasn't been ruined. The sameness story continues with the specifications as well. For all intents and purposes, again here, this is a Note Air 3, and it's identical in both of them, which means they have the same exact CPU, 2.4 GHz octa-core CPU, 4 GB of RAM, 64 GB of storage with expandable micro SD card slot, same battery with 3700 milliamps, and the same version of the Android 12 as well. The weight is tiny bit listed as tiny little bit more on the Note Air 3, as in 450 grams, and this one is 430, and I did measure them, and yes, this one was 440 something, and this one is a little bit under 430. So there is a difference between them, and I guess that needs to be attributed to the only differences that we have, and the biggest difference between them obviously is the screen, because the Note Air 3 has a monochromatic screen and the Note Air 3C has a color screen. The difference is not just the color. The screen on Note Air 3 is 227 ppi, of course black and white because it's just monochromatic, but because Note Air 3C is using a Kaleido 3 panel, that means that it has a 300 ppi black and white content and 150 ppi of the color content that's displayed. And no, people keep asking, oh, if I switch it to a black and white mode, you can't do that on any Kaleido device, because this is a passive color filter on top of a black and white screen. Now, that is a good indication, because that means that underneath this color panel that we see here, we have a 300 ppi black and white screen. It's just that it has this passive color matrix on top, so that means that sooner or later we will get 300 ppi 10.3 inch monochromatic devices as well, from Boox and other manufacturers, but that is not the case with the Note Air 3. So 227 versus 300 in black and white and 150 ppi in color on the Note Air 3C. The other meaningful difference is also the Boox speed refresh technology, or the BSR. Note Air 3C is equipped with it, and that provides for much quicker refresh rates and faster smooth ghosting cleanup and all that kind of stuff. Note Air 3 does not have that, but that also means that Note Air 3C is going to go through that same 3700 milliamp battery way faster than the Note Air 3 will. So a little bit of here and a little bit of there. And of course, we have the price difference with Note Air 3 being $100 cheaper than the Note Air 3C, $400 versus $500. As far as the writing experience on all of these different devices here, it's really similar. It could be characterized as almost identical, but there are some differences, and these differences are important. So let's start with the writing latency. Well, Boox Note Air 3, the monochromatic version, is slower, but it's by no means slow, because it measures at 28.78 milliseconds of writing latency versus the Note Air 3C, which has 17.54 milliseconds, which obviously is 11 milliseconds faster, so significantly faster than the Note Air 3C, and it basically makes it alongside with the SuperNote A6 X2, currently the fastest devices with the fastest writing latencies on the market currently. But still at 28.78, Note Air 3C, very respectable, but not as fast as the Note Air 3C. As far as the surface itself goes, the resistance of the screen surface is pretty much exactly the same because the surface coating of the screen is identical. So we get the 39.92% of the roughness of paper on the Note Air 3C, and we get 39.77 roughness of the paper on the Note Air 3, and that's such a small margin of error that for all intents and purposes they have the exact same type of roughness of the screen. The surface to screen distance is where we do have some differences, because on the Note Air 3 we have the standard of 1 to 1.1 millimeters distance between the surface of writing and where the content actually is displayed. As on the Note Air 3C, that is actually marginally smaller. It's 0.9 millimeters, but it does create a noticeable difference when you do write on these devices. It does feel more connected. This is not something that I can show with the camera because of the angle and stuff, but it is something that you do notice when you write between these two. You feel a little bit more connected to the device when writing on this one, on the Note Air 3C, simply because the tip of the pen is physically a little bit closer to the display where the strokes of what you're writing is actually displayed on. And finally, there is a little bit of a difference in the feel, the screen surface as well. I think that they are using a different type of glass, because this one feels actually significantly harder and offers a lot more resistance than the Note Air 3C. So Note Air 3 feels a little bit harder and a little bit more disconnected and is a little bit slower when writing, while the Note Air 3C is a little bit closer, a lot faster, and it feels a lot softer when writing on it. As far as battery life goes, well, there the story flips over in favor of the Note Air 3, and mainly because it does not have that BSR technology. So reading performance with the front light set at 100%, Note Air 3 would deliver around 20 hours of continuous reading per charge versus 8.33 hours per charge on the Note Air 3C. When we move the front light to equivalent, which is 30% intensity on the Note Air 3 and 50% on the Note Air 3C, because you need to compensate for that inherent darkness of the screen, of a color screen, Kaleido technology that offers. Then we have 66 hours per charge of continuous reading time per charge on Note Air 3 versus 14.28 hours per reading time per charge. And when you turn the front light completely off, that's where you actually see how much it costs to have that BSR technology, because continuous reading time with the front light completely turned off is 100 hours or more per charge on the Note Air 3, and it's only 14.28 hours per charge on the Note Air 3C, which is a gigantic difference in battery performance. Now, when we switch over to the writing performance, that's going to be a little bit different, because when you're writing, the main consumer is going to be the CPU itself, because it's going to be doing most of the hard work there. So when writing, again with the front light 30%, 50% here to have the same kind of same-ish type of experience, user experience, real world user experience, we would get 12.5 hours of continuous writing on the Note Air 3 versus 7.14 hours of continuous writing on the Note Air 3C. And when the front light is turned completely off, we get 16.67 hours of continuous writing on the Note Air 3 versus 7.69 hours of continuous writing per charge on Note Air 3C. So again, very, very significant battery life difference in any way you put it. Note Air 3C is far more battery hungry, and that's basically due to that BSR chip that's non-bypassable. If it was bypassable, then this would be really cool, but it's not, so it drains the battery whether you need it or not, and whether you're using it or not, you don't get to choose. It's going to drain that battery all the time, so this one far more in line with what you would expect battery life wise of a traditional e-ink device. Now it's time to check out and compare the reading performance and experience on both of them. And the first thing that I'm going to check is the performance of it. So both of them are set up in the same exact way. So if you go to the native settings, you can see that both are set on Regal, no full refresh rate, full screen refresh rate, normal full refresh, but it doesn't matter because it's not going to happen. And also speed mode and all of that kind of stuff. So that is now set to be the same, and the test is going to be me tapping 10 times to flip pages forward and back and see how many of the pages which device will miss or not miss, and then we see how precise they are in one speed mode, and then we're going to check it out in the faster mode. So let's try with the Regal refresh mode. So let's start. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and both at page 31. All right, let's go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and both there. So neither of them missed a beat. Now, what's my first personal impression on speed of changes? Actually, in Regal mode, noticeably, Note Air 3 is more reactive, and you can actually see quite considerably more reactive, and that actually ends up being faster for reading than the Note Air 3C. And it's not a fluke, this is consistent. We have this wait period, and then it's like tap, there we go, tap, there we go. Whereas in here, you don't have that. So that's actually quite interesting. Now, let me just see if it's something to do with the way. No, it just has a Regal. They're the same. So would this be the same thing here? Would then it behave that way? Nope. It's still faster. So no matter which of the full screen refresh modes I choose, Note Air 3 is faster in page flipping than the Note Air 3C. Now, when we flip to the speed refresh mode, we get the same thing, interestingly. Do you see that? Note Air 3 is more responsive or faster than the Note Air 3C. Because Note Air 3C, and it's not due to lack of processing power or anything, this is just yet again the example of just how inconsistent and not complete the state of the software implementation on Boox devices. These are identical devices. The only difference is here, this guy is thinking, oh, you want me to flip a page? Okay. When it does it brilliantly fast. But it has that kind of thinking thing. Hey, I'm processing. Hey, did you mean this touch or that touch? Oh, you meant that. Okay, let's go and do that. And that's just, frankly, kind of annoying to see. But it's definitely in favor of the Note Air 3 versus Note Air 3C. So on the Note Air 3 so far, we are having a brighter screen because it's a monochromatic screen, better battery life, worse writing performance, but not that terrible at all, and actually far more responsiveness, not the speed itself, but the speed is basically identical, but the responsiveness is actually faster than the Note Air 3C. And now let's do in speed mode, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Eventually, wow, that was not good. So let's try and get there. Yeah, this is now just exposing a big issue, which is not something that I had. So the latest update on the Note Air 3C made it worse. And I'll have to check my videos before, because I have been using this and I have noticed it. And I thought that I was going crazy, but I'm not. I think they messed something up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Didn't miss a single page, missed quite a few pages, and it's just not as far as responsiveness goes. What good is it that you have that BSR there that's draining all of the battery when the state of the OS that's superimposed on top of everything, on top of a working Android and on top of a working hardware, is there to hog and confuse everything up and basically not let you do things? This is just, yeah. But anyway, goes in favor currently of Note Air 3, but the reason behind this is software implementation, which means that you don't have a guarantee that the following update won't do the same problem or introduce the same issue and lagginess to the Note Air 3, because Note Air 3C didn't have it, but currently it does. Go figure. All right, let's now close this document. Not like that, but let's just go to the same page and close it at the same time. Okay, now let's try and open it at the same time. Much faster here. So let's see again if we have the same type of thing. Okay, let's open it up. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. There we go. So as far as opening the overall performance, now this one is actually faster. Now that could be due to how the overall system refresh mode is done, because they are different, right? So now I'm in normal and I should be in speed. Let's try in speed mode and see if that makes a difference when I'm speed mode in the system. Let's see. A little bit. So a little bit of a difference there as well. So the difference is actually not that huge between the two, but Note Air 3C is consistently faster to show you the content of an opened file. So, and it's far more instantaneous, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, software is all over the place. And let's try a document that it did not open on either of them since they were powered on. So, okay. Again, very similar type of performance, but some differences here and there. I think consistently Note Air 3C is opening the same type of document a tiny little bit faster, or not opening, but actually displaying the content a little bit faster. So yeah, so That's the reading type of performance. As far as the obvious one, which is like, hey, what about the 227 versus 300 ppi? Well, that's something that's gonna come out later this week. So then you can actually stay tuned and check that video out. And then you will see what are the real world differences between 300 ppi and 227 ppi. But also there's something to consider, which is that passive color matrix, which not only makes things darker, but a little bit fuzzier because it is something that's on top of every single ink cell on this display. So you will get a little bit crisper of an image on this one, even though it is not 300 ppi. So quite a bit to kind of, it's not black and white, no pun intended here. Now, as far as the overall system navigation goes, let's just kind of see how they move around. And when they are in equivalent, like this one is in balanced and this one is in speed refresh mode, yeah, the interaction is fairly pretty much exactly the same in both of them. One thing that I'm going to change is I really dislike the default setting. It's like super puffed up and it just doesn't look nice, so that's why I lower everything up so that it looks better. One thing that you can actually see is that look at the amount of ghosting that we're starting to have even with BSR technology, right? Now I'm in balanced mode, right? And here I am in speed mode, okay? So for all intents and purposes, they're the same thing. And I'm switching between two of the same type of stuff. And look at the state of ghosting here. Okay, so the speed, roughly exactly the same. Okay? But the state of ghosting, not exactly. Because we're having a lot more ghosting on the Kaleido 3 with the BSR. It will give it eventually, it will get cleared up. But we're not having that issue here. No, not at all. So even if I switched it to A2 mode, which is a lot more faster, then we're starting to get similar levels of ghosting. Yeah, so we're starting to get similar levels of ghosting when we switch to A2 mode. So that's something to definitely keep in mind, because just because this one has BSR doesn't automatically mean that in all of the situations that is going to be superior as far as ghosting performance goes, which clearly it's not in these cases. All right, so let's go to the case where that's going to be in favor of the Note Air 3C, and that is something like this, where you need to interact quite a lot. And here you will see that we do have quite a bit of a performance difference between the two of them. Now, because this is a different app, now they have, I've set them up so that they're in the same type of performance thing. So I'm just gonna lower it here. Okay, and there we go. So yes, we are starting to have quite a lot of ghosting in A2 mode on the Note Air 3. While on the Note Air 3C, now, when you're actually starting to do that, you will see that it's starting to kind of phase out and it cleans itself out gradually in front of your eyes. It's starting to clear out as you talk, because you can see these are starting to fade. Now, depending on which refresh mode, they will fade faster or slower. So let's now switch both of these to balanced and speed mode and see what we get. And here we get that main advantage with the BSR, where in balanced mode you get really, really good ghosting clearing and excellent performance at the same time, while on the Note Air 3 the performance simply drops off dramatically down, but it does clear it up quite considerably, right? So that is a main difference between these two, and that itself is going to matter when you're scrolling on internet articles or anything like that. That is a major difference that you're going to see between the two. So this one, perfectly usable, but if you want that speed, you are going to start to have that ghosting being introduced. As soon as you get to A2 levels, yeah, you're going to start having old gen style of ghosting levels, while that's not the case on the Note Air 3C. Now let's check out the overall speed of the device. They should theoretically be the same, but as far as we've seen, they're not really the same. So let's now install something that I don't have on both of them. Okay, so I've returned both of them to respective refresh modes, fast and A2, and I'm gonna attempt to install Audible on both of them for the first time and see how they perform. So 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, tapped on both of them at the same time. Let's see how they perform. Theoretically they should be the same because they are the same device underneath it. However, I have the 2.8 gigahertz version of the Note Air 3C. If you want more about that, you can actually see the video linked over there. But for all intents and purposes, it shouldn't have any difference. And as you can see, they've installed it exactly the same time. And that again proves that whole point that it really doesn't matter which version you got, 2.8 or 2.4 gigahertz, it's exactly the same thing. In reality, as you can see, exactly the same performance here between the two. Let's open it up and open up the app. Okay, actually a little bit faster here, which is kind of interesting as well. So installation and opening of apps is pretty much exactly the same. Let's uninstall it and see how does that work on both of them so that we can get rid of it. Let me just see, where is my Audible? There it is. So let's long press. Yep, uninstall. Do you want to uninstall? Yes. And for all intents and purposes, exactly the same performance, system-wide performance on both of them. So yeah, which makes sense because underneath it, they are the same device. All right, and finally, let's test the wake up and power off, power on time. So let's wake them up. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same because the only thing is that I have a pin code here, and falling asleep. 3, 2, 1, go. Exactly the same here as well. Okay, so now let's wake them up and let's power them off so that we see how long does that take on both of them. Do they have a difference in that? So power off. Nope, they go really quickly into the off state. Right, third time is the charm to do the power on test. First time I didn't press them at the same time. Second time I forgot that I have the pin code on this one. So now I've removed that temporarily so that we can do the startup time comparison. Let's see if it's going to be definitely worth it, right? So 3, 2, 1, go. Yes, they've started. Okay, so now let's see. How do they perform? Okay, so Note Air 3 seems to be faster in the startup. Definitely 2, 3, close, very close. Device, tablet, interesting, inconsistent. Oh, okay, so for all intents and purposes, pretty much exactly the same startup time. Wow, that was worth it 3 times, but okay, fine. It's a good thing to kind of prove that, yes, they are the same performance. Well, all right. Again, as in many of these videos, I'm really glad that I did this kind of direct back-to-back testing and that I had the opportunity to do this kind of testing because there are some assumptions that it just shows me whenever I do these tests, back-to-back tests, that I need to always remind myself to stay away from any kind of basic rational assumptions because especially in Boox's case, they don't really apply, and it's mainly because of the state of their software. And as we've seen, like, contrary to any logic or anything that you may expect, actually in reading responsiveness and performance, Note Air 3, the monochromatic one, without the BSR technology, outperforms every single time Note Air 3C, which has the BSR technology and all of that. This is my own Note Air 3C, and from the latest update or the one before, which were performance update improvements, Yeah, I've noticed that the device started to think between kind of flipping pages, and it started to become super sluggish in flipping pages, which was definitely not the case. And you can actually check that out, how it performed, in my unboxing and the in-depth review videos before that update. But this is the current state of the Boox Note Air 3C. And to me, this is like a little bit of a flashback, and not a good one, not a good one at all, because I made a video some time ago when Boox's OS 3.0, I think, came out. And I believe that main takeaway of that video that I had was, I want my Note Air back. Back then, I had Note Air 1, and I noticed that so many differences and things that were introduced, artificially introduced, with the software improvements that Boox has had, basically degraded and ruined the experience of and usability of the Note Air 1 that I've had. And now I'm starting to see the same trend with the fabulous Note Air 3C, but already now, with the first updates that came out for it, they are making it worse. I didn't see a single improvement, and I saw several significant worsenings, or whatever you may want to call. Nevertheless, that kind of rant aside, but it's an important one, the current state between these two is actually much more different than you would think. So what are the disadvantages of the Note Air 3? Well, it's 227 ppi, and you can check the video that either came out or is coming out shortly after this one, where I directly compare the 227 versus 300 ppi and what my conclusions are with that regards. It's not color, okay, that's a given, and it doesn't have a BSR technology. Now, from this video, we've seen that the BSR is beneficial, absolutely, but in a very handful type of operations that a typical e-ink Note user won't actually prioritize on a device like this. So, yes, scrolling, reading, and doing interactive things, way better on the Note Air 3C. However, reading, way better on the Note Air 3. Battery life, no competition. Absolutely zero competition here. This one annihilates it, like completely annihilates it. Writing latency, yes, Note Air 3C is faster, but this one, even though it's slower, it's nothing to smirk off. 28 milliseconds is not bad at all, considering, for example, Remarkable 2 is still at 24 milliseconds or something like that. So that's Remarkable 2 territory, and that's not bad. Writing feel, yes, Note Air 3C is a little bit better, and I do actually prefer it, especially the distance and the hardness, definitely better than a Note Air 3, but again, it's not terrible, it's good to very good, like B-, I would give it here. This one, I personally rate it as an A-. And also you have the $100 less for this one that actually outperforms the Note Air 3C in several of quite important categories in an e-ink world. So, who's the winner here? I think that there is no one undisputed winner, and it depends what do you want to use the devices for. And that's why I think that this testing was important to do, because it just showcases that, yeah, depending on the use case scenario, you need information like this so that you are able to actually pinpoint, okay, for my use case scenario, these are my priorities, and then this one is a better one, or for my use case scenarios, these are the priorities, and this one is a better choice. So hopefully this video serves that purpose and helps potential buyers, or whoever is kind of considering these devices, to make up their mind and see what is the better device for their specific set of circumstances and needs. I hope that you found the video helpful, useful, informative, and all of sorts of things. If you did, please like and subscribe, and the notification bell in the description below to get notified when new videos come out on My Deep Guide. And also, if you do like the independent work that I do on My Deep Guide, check out the mydeepguide.com/shop, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, MDO24, MMP, links in the description below. Go check them out, you'll know what I mean. Thank you so much for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video. Bye.